our 6th episode of TRENA Talks together with our friends from the LCI of ECCT, the Low Carbon Initiative of the European Chamber of Commerce, Taiwan. We're excited to dive into Taiwan's energy transition and what's ahead for 26. Sounds very exciting. YD from TRENA, and joining me is Ralph.
Thanks, YD.
Hey.
Merry Christmas. That's the Christmas episode.
That's a Christmas episode. We're not in a very warm Christmas.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
So following our latest Halloween episode, now we have a Christmas episode. That means we can make wishes in the end for renewable energy. I'm very happy that we are here today joined by Annie from the Low Carbon Initiative, by Bart, who is the director of the Low Carbon Initiative, and by Wei, who is the co-chair of the Low Carbon Initiative. So we have a packed agenda for today, and we're going to first introduce you to you a little bit more about the Low Carbon Initiative to start with, and then we will have a longer discussion with both Bart and Wei on 2025, and we will find all the positive and all the challenging things, and then we will make our wishes for 26.
Great. Before we get into the details, let's talk about the LCI of ECCT. From what I understand, it's a forum for the industry leaders and policy makers to collaborate, share knowledge, and create partnerships to speed up Taiwan's transition to a low-carbon economy and drive sustainable growth.
Annie, if you can tell us a little bit more about what LCI is doing.
Okay, thank you, YD and Raul. Really happy to join you today. For anyone who's new to the Low Carbon Initiative or LCI, we're one of the ECCT's 2 cross-industry enablers. What that means in practice is that we bring together industry leaders across the chamber, plus innovators, policymakers, and different stakeholders to work on low carbon solutions. So basically, if you're part of Taiwan's energy transition ecosystem, chances are you'll end up somewhere in our orbit. Our mission is simple but essential. We showcase European best practices, and we try to support clear, more inclusive, and more investment-friendly policies and markets here in Taiwan. Because at the end of the day, long-term renewable growth doesn't rely only on technology. It also depends on regulation, finance, and social readiness. And that's why LCI works to keep the whole low-carbon ecosystem engaged, not just one sector at a time. And over the past 13 years, we've actually built a really strong community across industries, NGOs, academia, and media. And now we have over 80 members, and we've made impacts through events, reports, long-term government engagement, and a lot of collaborative initiatives. And now actually coming to my 3rd year with the chamber, I have the chance to see how LCI evolves year by year. What members actually respond to, what creates real impact, and where we can push further. So looking into 2026, we want to keep that momentum with more dialogues and more multi-stakeholder projects. We set 4 strategic themes to keep our focus consistent. First one is green energy. So we want to accelerate renewable deployment and electrification to decarbonize both power and industry. Second one is circular innovation. So we want to use resources smarter and close the loops and building new value chains instead of creating waste. Third one is eco-living. So we want to support sustainable consumption, mobility, and lifestyle choices that communities can participate in. Last one, enablers. So, which is everything that keeps the system moving. Policy, finance, digitalization, and the right partnerships. So we hope that these 4 themes help us build continuity, not just one-off events here and there, but long-term solutions that connect across sectors.
That's a great overview. So before we look ahead, so Annie, could you share what's LCI's biggest achievements in 2025?
Okay. So I'm going to cheat a little and share 2. Yeah. So in October, we organized the Industrial AI and Energy Transition Forum together with ETO, E3, and EU Taiwan as part of the biannual European Innovation Week. So we brought together European and Taiwanese experts to look at how AI is reshaping renewables, from solar optimization and offshore wind forecasting to geothermal powering Google and the rise of energy efficient green data centers. We are also very honored to have Mr. Hubert Gams from the European Commission's DG Grow and his team, as well as Mr. William Liu from MOEA's International Trade Administration, and of course, Wei Wei representing LCI as the co-chair. So events like this demonstrate the strength of Europe-Taiwan collaboration and the way government and industry can move toward together. And I'm going to sneak in another one. So we actually officially launched LCI's 10th sustainability report, named Vision to Reality, a Net Zero Future, back in early March. This was a major project we worked on with Ernst & Young, who is also one of the LCI members. We worked on this project for several months, and this is also supported by MOEA, MOEMV, the Forestry Agency of MOA, EETO, and also article contributions from nearly 30 companies and academic partners. The report highlights 6 key areas shaping Taiwan's progress toward net zero, including both current energy pathways and alternatives for the future. But I think for me personally, the highlights aren't the individual forums or the report itself only. I think what also matters is what they represent, which is LCI's ability to bring people together, turn our members' expertise into a collective voice or action, and ultimately help move Taiwan's energy transition forward.
I'm actually, I'm in Taiwan now for 18 years, and I have seen the journey of LCI.
Yes.
And I have been part of the journey of LCI.
We're the start of the journey.
One of the starts, and there have been others, and perhaps also to remember Andy Gursch, who passed away quite for some time now, but may rest in peace. He's been also very important push for that one. And then we had Sammy, who was very active, and then a new generation of enablers and people that pushed forward. And I think when we started, it was like 10 companies, and now you say you have 80.
Yeah, members and partners across sectors.
So that's quite a strong platform. And I mean, the European Chamber is one of the largest foreign chambers and brings a great variety of companies that really want to push forward on energy transition and others. And I'm also glad you see you still do reports.
Yeah.
We've done a lot over the last 13 years. And they're often very helpful because they also become a compendium of things that, where's Taiwan at, where Taiwan wants to go. So it's also a good source of information. So thank you very much, Annie.
No problem.
All right. Good. Then. So thank you, Annie, for that really good introduction of the Low Carbon Initiative. And we are actually cooking something which we will disclose at the end of the podcast. And I'm very happy that today both Wei Wei and Bart are joining us for a discussion. Both are long-standing veterans. I don't want to make you too old.
You make me feel old.
Yes, but been already in that business for a long time, in onshore wind, in solar, a little bit of offshore wind, in all forms and shapes for companies and associations, and been very passionate about the topic. And it would be good looking back at 2025 a little bit with your experience. From my point of view, let's say more from my business point of view, we are writing off 2025. It's been a quite difficult year, but we will not keep losing our hope. So let's see how we can make it better next year. But that's probably not only for us. So we're not like, within our world, but we're part of a really big universe of decision makers and things that have to happen for that, right? And perhaps also this is a little bit of an alumni meeting now, because actually YD and Wei Wei and myself, we work together during InfraWest WPD times. And Wei Wei is the chairman of WPD. Taiwan. Yes. And has had a great career and will still have a great career in front of her, and is working a lot on onshore wind. So we'll come back to that. And Bart, we had on the podcast a year ago.
Yes.
Nearly like 7 days.
Yeah, I'll try not to talk about the same things, although I'm very passionate about those. But let's see.
Yeah. And now in a new function, which you can perhaps then also introduce more, looking after the sustainability sector for the chamber and all of these activities.
I will.
So I would like to give YD the floor.
Oh, okay, great. So welcome Bart and Weiwei to the podcast. Great to have you. So how about I start with maybe it's still challenging, but let's say something about the success of 2025. So what are the highlights for Taiwan this year? Maybe Bart?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I can start first.
No, actually, if you look at the numbers, I think Raoul and I were just talking about that. If you look, for example, at offshore wind, and you would plot a graph, and you would look at where it came from and where it is now, it looks absolutely awesome. We came from almost nothing, and within the past couple of years, it has grown significantly. There is a whole industry built up around it. You can see that local companies are picking up on that. Taiwan has its own offshore wind installation vessel. I find that very impressive. There's lots of local businesses that are involved in the industry, and I could see good potential for them to be also competitive, at least regionally. So in that sense, what has happened is quite positive. It's just that if we look at the industry right now, and I don't know if you want me to talk about that now, if we talk about that later, but you have the feeling that the whole progress is stagnating. We're all waiting, especially in the field of offshore. And I think in the other renewables, and you will talk about that later as well, we see something similar. So we see that we kind of came to a bump there that yet has to be surmounted. There is not, from what I perceive, is that there is not too much initiative from the government side right now. It seems kind of ominously quiet. No thorough decisions are being made. I think Weiwei will talk about onshore a bit later. I feel for you. I think it's very hard to get anything done there right now, and it's a pity because when you look at what's still possible and what is still needed, especially if you look at Taiwan's ambitions for net zero, we've only started our journey just now, and in order to achieve those ambitions, we really have to step up and get to this difficult hump and start to really push for progress. So I'm sorry to leave on that somewhat negative note, but so progress being made. A lot of work cut out for us. We need better support from the government. I think there's a lot to be done as well in reach out to the public and explaining what renewables are about and getting the support there as well. And also in terms of alignment with the local government, I think this is one of the obstacles and why projects are not really getting off the ground. We need the local governments as well as a stakeholder in the progress. And having said that, I think this is where the LCI has its job cut out for it. There's a lot for us to do. We will later talk about the plans for the LCI later. To be honest, thinking about 2026, I don't know where to start. So one of the biggest difficulties that my team and I are facing is what is the most effective thing that we can do next year. But I will talk about that later. I'll hand over to Weiwei first.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's very great to be here to meet my old friends, Rahul, YD, and Bart. So, of course, I like to share more on onshore wind, not only because I am working in onshore wind sector, but also because compared to like offshore wind and the PV, where the big ambitious targets are set, there's nearly hope for onshore wind. But even having said that, we still quietly achieve something. Yeah, so I like to share some good news from onshore wind sector. So to start from some quick numbers, they are actually already over 930 megawatt installed in Taiwan, and among which 510 megawatt is actually coming from WPD. Ooh. So we have over 50 market shares. So sorry for marketing WPD a bit here. Yeah, and as we know, all the challenging development conditions that are ahead of us, there are still some good progress on the project. So let's talk by chronological order. So the onshore wind project with 4 2.3 megawatt turbines was realized by Taiwan. Yeah, this year. So they already started to generate electricity. And then followed by Foxwell's newly commissioned 4.2 megawatt turbines. And location is in Changhua County. So the total capacity is 12.6 megawatt. And we, WPD also have a project with the same size as Foxwell's under construction now. And today actually marks a very special day because we have the tower of one turbine starting construction today. I can share with you a picture. It just happened like 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago, okay?
Good weather
so,
for that one.
Yeah. So, to be honest, exactly. So, actually, my position is quite kind of in a dilemma. So on the one hand, I hope the wind can be very strong because actually you can feel the northeast monsoon comes quite late this year, and it did have the impact on the operating project. But on the other hand, looking at the project under construction, yes, and I hope we have a sufficient weather window, to complete the project in time. And our target is to commission this a small but important project by next January. Yeah. And so although looking at all the scale of these 3 turbines, they look quite small, but altogether you can still see almost a 35 megawatt capacity contributing to the grid. So from my point of view, I think it demonstrates how important energy diversification is to have different types of energy contributing to the grid. So I think that's a good news I want to share with the podcast audience.
Yeah, okay. So thanks, Wei Wei. So maybe let's switch gears to solar a bit. 2025 is also quite mixed for solar. So on one hand, we kept rolling our capacity. So now the installed capacity hit, we hope, 15 gigawatts, but maybe almost 15 gigawatts this year. But the real drama was the weather. So we have a interesting typhoon in July this year. Everyone saw the damage headlines. The surprising bit was actually only a small friction of the panels, about 1%, that is actually damaged, to be honest. And actually in a lot of cases, the panels basically becomes a shield of this agricultural or livestock roofs they were on. So that's actually a good silver lining here. But the tricky part was floating solar. The typhoon gave us some unique problems there, especially, some panels really got damaged and causing a major headache for disposal or processing. So it totally exposed the bottleneck in our PV recycling and waste management. But, well, that's actually a good kind of problem to have right now, because in the past, we thought we might have this problem, like 10 more years later. But now so we're not really ready for that. Gradually, we will be there, but we are not there right now. But because of the typhoon, we now is really stepping up to build a solid PV panel recycling mechanism, which is also very critical for the long term. TRENA will also have an in-depth interview with our Minister of Environment on our weekly podcast. So if our listener, if you are interested, please listen to that. But now on the policy side, the ground-mounted solar had been a hot topic. To calm some of those concerns, ground-mounted solar, our legislative yuan just passed a rule that large-scale solar has to go through a full EIA, environmental impact assessment, before development. It's quite a big change because before that, we don't really forced to do that. We sort of like voluntarily to do that. But, well, that regulation meant to improve public discussion and site selection. We hope so. But now everyone's watching to see how this regulation will affect the path of solar development. So now we might counter that the solar development get a bit slower than expected. So now the Energy Administration, they have a interesting, how do I call it, a program. The EA proposed the early repowering mechanism. So basically, EA encouraged developers of those older, less efficient sites to upgrade their system sooner. So making sure we got more power from the same piece of land. So it's kind of smart, in terms of maximizing the existing green energy footprint. So that's
yeah. I think they're trying, and Bart mentioned that a little bit, we have this politician, even across the parties, inertia on really acting. And you can see that in the energy numbers this year, actually quite strongly, especially in solar. I mean, onshore wind, and perhaps we can discuss this a little bit. Onshore wind is one of the longest standing technologies. It has its boom years, then it has its flat years. It's still the cheapest energy source. It's below avoided cost of energy. It would be a wonderful repowering source.
Right. If I may interrupt you, I just read this report from Wind Europe where they looked at 2 different countries in Europe and what the result was of the repowering effort. So, for example, in Germany, in the last 2 years, the wind farms that were repowered, they had 30% less turbines, but generate 3 times more energy. So imagine we have like almost 1 gigawatt of onshore wind in Taiwan. We could make that to 3 gigawatt with 30% less turbines. But right now, it's almost impossible to carry out any of the repowering works. It's really a pity.
It would need something like in Germany, where there's actually a special regulation saying if you have an environmental impact assessment you want to repower and you reduce the area you're using and you don't have any special natural reserves or any, like biodiversity or ornithology issues, then you just go ahead and it's fastened up. But as far as I understand, and correct me, a lot of projects in Taiwan, because they're now actually coming to 20 years, a little bit younger sometimes. But back then there was no real EIA, so now are they faced with that issue why they can't repower in Taiwan?
Yeah. I think as long as we follow the procedure regulation, we can still repower or let's treat it as a new project. But however, of course, we don't want to do that, right? So we want something with a more simplified process, or even with some incentives. In some countries, we see that. So we really strongly encourage the government to start to think about that, because the years may not come like quick, but we have to start because the development cycle is quite long. Yeah, like 3, 5, even 7 years. So it's never too late to start now. Yeah.
Because I think that's the difference in Europe. In Europe, there's an active promotion from the side of the government to do this repowering because of the benefits that it brings. It reduces the number of turbines and it increases the power. So they often have reduced procedures for it. I mean, there's a turbine standing there already.
Why not use that? Yes. Because I think, so the goal was 20% of renewable energy this year, and we all know that's not happening, right? And we're actually standing at 11.9% as between January and October. And also Weiwei mentioned that for at least probably onshore wind is actually that the wind was less. And there's also a study from Sologis that says Taiwan has less solar this year, less irradiation this year. Because Taiwan has added more gigawatts, but actually producing less solar power than last year. And it's a bit of a riddle, but if that is true, that the irradiation this year was I think in parts of Taiwan and the Philippines, the irradiation was not that good. So that lowers the old 15% target. That's not excusing it, but that's probably one of the reasons. And if you look in solar, and I think it's a really good and smart move to already encourage repowering in solar, because solar is 20 years ago, there was just 1 megawatt of solar in Taiwan. It's not happening really fast because solar only picked up really fast in 2016. But if you look, like we are now at 15.18 gigawatt, but then over the last year, Taipower, they also track how many companies signed a feed-in tariff PPA with them. And this number is, as of November, at 18 gigawatts. So that means between the 15 and the 18, there's like 3 gigawatts currently under construction, perhaps waiting for a permit. So now I think our Vice Premier Cheng Li-chun said something 2 or 3 days ago, which might have
Like 20 gigawatt?
20 gigawatt by next year. Pragmatically speaking, if you're now at 18, and that's basically adding, so if you do all the math, like there was an addition of 900 megawatt in this year. How do you suddenly, so this 18 gigawatt needs to turn into 20 very, very fast if you want to be finished by end of next year with 20. So somehow some decision makers need to speed up things. Or if this is so constricted, then, for example, onshore wind needs to be really like Christmas wish. Needs to be like really unplugged, because then you could perhaps even just 1 or 2 gigawatts, so you would come closer, because currently the gap in solar is around 4.8 gigawatt to the original target, and in offshore wind, we are still 1.8 gigawatt away.
Right.
So actually, what really make us really nervous, Bart mentioned we are at the waiting mode
Yes.
for the entire 2025, probably 2024. I also have the feeling of waiting mode. Is that we see the demand from the AI, from the semicon sectors. Right. And that's why we only have like 11.9%, because the demand is increasing so drastically. That's why, we feel we work very hard every day, but still we couldn't, compete with the demand, the increasing of demand. So when we see the Vice Premier says that, we were like, no, you need to be more you need to do more policy adjustment. Otherwise, we celebrate the capacity increase. But actually we see the first, for example, offshore wind, we see the first 2 phases of round 3. Everything we see now today for the almost 5 gigawatts, offshore wind, their PPA were signed in 2018. And if we want to make things move forward, for this, in round 3, the phase 1, phase 2 projects, they are actually not all of them are bankable. That's very, frustrating. So if the government don't do something about it, we're just waiting here and maybe probably will keep waiting for 2026. Yeah.
But talking about green energy procurement, and I understand the LCI is also doing a lot in this regards. How are your members seeing that they're...
Oh, that's a good point, because when you said that, I think one of the most difficult challenges that we have is that there is not enough green energy for the demand from manufacturing and other off-takers. And that's a serious issue. I actually should say there's not enough affordable green energy, because they also have this, they want to only pay a certain price for it. Fair enough. They have to stay competitive. But if you extrapolate that, if we cannot over the coming years find ways to meet that demand, I think that could affect Taiwan's competitiveness globally, because that's still going to be a demand, no matter we have Trump or not. Now, I still think globally, this is going to be a need that production is powered by renewable or by, let's say, carbon-free energy in some form and another. So if not the US, then at least for Europe with their CBAM mechanism that is slowly coming into force. So
that's also a
challenge there.
And I think one of just to add this, for the American companies who even might, under Trump, some of them might be a little bit more relaxed about it. But in reality, we know some of the large technology companies are still very much on trying to procure more RE. So they just don't give up because there's one president for 4 years.
This is a global trend. This cannot, this will not be interrupted. It will continue. It's just whether individual countries are able to keep up. And I think Taiwan has kept up and has done a really good job to develop renewables, but we might be at a critical moment in time right now.
Because the challenge for a lot of companies that operate in Taiwan in manufacturing or using electricity, if they will start calculating their CO2 footprint for 2025, our thermal share is 85.6% this year. So that means, congratulations, gas really made it to 50%, and then the rest is coal and a little bit of diesel, really not much. But the challenge for all these companies is that the grid is not getting greener.
No, absolutely.
It's getting actually more dirty. It's a weird throwback. It's basically back to 2008. So
and you may also there are some questions around that because we're replacing coal with natural gas. Okay, natural gas is a lot cleaner, but it will also it's a energy source that is still fossil in nature, so we're still emitting CO2, and also it will make Taiwan somewhat more vulnerable because you can only store 7 to 10 days worth of liquid natural gas, and that's going to be a challenge. And I have some numbers here because you mentioned 80% fossil share in our energy mix in Taiwan. Just to compare, it's 30% in Europe right now. So renewables really have made big steps there. And if you look at the region, it's 60% in Korea and 65% in Japan. And at least we should be able to keep up with that, right?
Especially with the Koreans, come on.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a good benchmark. Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, and Bart, and we already briefly touched upon, I think, yes, offshore wind. This year, a lot of projects that are in construction had really, really good news. Got their stuff done. There's a bit of delay into next year and the year after, but then, yes, we only have one financial close, which is very important for future projects, and it's the Fengmiao. And we understand that SRE is, with Formosa 4, behind that curve, kind of, and active, but they haven't announced it yet. And for the market, perhaps also a challenge, and I wonder, we also said just government, right? So, but it's far more stakeholders that are involved in this, and we can perhaps, when we talk about the outlook for next year, kind of try to paint this a little bit more in detail. But it's a bit of blinding for Taiwan because right now still offshore wind is under construction. That looks great.
Yes.
The largest international foreign investor in Taiwan this year will be Denmark.
Yes.
Because of, okay, at least, we too work for Danish companies, so a little bit of Danish pride, even nobody's Danish here, but Ørsted, CIP, parts of Siemens Gamesa, actually Vestas, and others, they're still investing because they're constructing.
Right.
But there's only one project we are certain of 500 megawatt that will be built. So this will go off a shelf next year if there is no, and I feel the government is understanding and it's also moving slowly, but if you don't rescue all the other projects, then this falls off the cliff, right? And it's similar for other industries. Right. So that's a big challenge. And
to be fair, I understand that in Europe, offshore is also facing some difficulties. Yes. And that is because the increased cost and the reluctance for banks to do and financial institutions to do the financing. And that's probably where better support from the government is needed as well. There needs to be an underlying financial structure, and we cannot completely rely on contracts that the project owners sign in the form of CPPAs with off-takers. This is financial institutions need more than that. And that's why the government definitely they'll need to adjust some of the requirements for the projects moving forward.
Good. So how 2026? I mean, we're really long all in it, right? And we've seen cycles of boom and bust. And
yes,
but you're still active. Huawei is still active. We didn't give up and start doing something completely different, right? So the same goes for YD over all these years, right? So what's going to have to change in 26? Is there still another year of a bit like consolidation and moving, or if again, all the parties in Taiwan, all the big parties in Taiwan want to reach 30% by 2030, perhaps in January, short before Chinese New Year, the society wakes up and says, 85% of thermal, not good. Let's build everything.
Oh, I like
what
that.
About you? But where now? But like what are the little like the guiding stars? What needs to align?
I wouldn't expect public opinion to shift that sudden and that fast, but who knows? To a certain extent, that it's definitely a wish. We need to get to that insight. That is also why I still feel very passionate about this, and I'm very happy that I'm able to have this role within the LCI. I think this is I hope we can be influential in that sense, that we're able to take the examples from Europe, and because that's what the LCI does. We are not doing advocacy. We're not one of the ECCT's committee, so we don't get that much involved in regulation and the nitty-gritty around that. But we look at what's being done in Europe and the examples that we have, and we will just paint a picture here, and it's then to be seen what things we can apply or not. Because if you don't know that something is possible, I remember a time that we thought that more than 40-50% renewables in the grid would be the grid would explode. I think it's been proven sufficiently well that this is not the case.
Yeah.
And this is something I think where those examples can help. If I may touch upon onshore wind again, I keep. For example, so I'm from the Netherlands, and I look at what's being done there. The Netherlands is roughly the same size as Taiwan, roughly the same population, maybe a little bit less, but very similar challenge. It's fully crowded. And you see that in the Netherlands, we're also struggling to develop projects on onshore wind. But we do know that we need that affordable renewable energy. So you see that in the Netherlands, these targets are being pushed down to the local level. So actually on the local level, the local governments are being told, we need such and such much energy. You decide whether you want solar, wind, or whatever. And then the local government will have to plan and allocate the areas for that. And in addition to that, make sure that the communication with the residents is done. This is also something that I feel in Taiwan is not really happening yet. It's all left to the developer to do. But by taking these steps, you see that onshore wind in Holland is still progressing. I think we have about 4 or 5 gigawatts, and the target is a lot more than that. It's still going to be doubled. And you see solutions like onshore wind turbines along highways, inside industrial parks, in the harbors. You see repowering being done. So a lot of these setups are possible. And this is the kind of examples that I want to bring back to Taiwan and showcase. And hopefully we can take example of that, and that will change that perception and opinion on the industry and help move us forward.
That sounds really good. I mean,
No, I would.
Yeah, our legislative and they just decided, they just passed the law. So there will be more budget allocated to the local government.
Yes.
So now it's the time for the local government to show, they can choose, for example, from how we understand, Taidong County, they have a passion to develop rooftop solar and geothermal.
Okay. So
this is something
I don't know if it's a rule yet, but everybody wants an AI center, right?
Data center.
Yeah, right. So there should be renewable energy to power that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And that should be, actually, in my opinion, that should be organized on the local level.
No, that's an opportunity for Taihuafa.
Exactly.
That you kind of empower local governments now more, because before that there are also some very passionate local governments and counties that really want to do things and want to move things, and now they get the funding to get experts in and to support infrastructure. And perhaps also to add this, the policymakers, lawmakers, politicians in Taiwan are generally open to discussions, and the LCI sharing best practices helps them to perhaps also think, because it's a multi-level challenge often. It's not 1 or 2, right? And then they can see how it's done somewhere else and how it could be done in the Taiwanese context, which will be a little bit different, but there might be other stakeholders. So that helps everybody who wants to change something to do so. Yeah. So Weiwei, anything from your side?
I think today we talk more on like onshore wind, offshore wind, and also PV. Not yet touched too much on other kind, but we also mentioned about the thermal, or the other kinds. Yeah, so like geothermal and even like small hydropower is also highlighted by the government. Can also possibly play an important role in expanding green energy applications. So I think, as what I say, I think energy diversification is very important. It's a key to the government. So we can not easily give up any kind. Yeah. And I think what's important for the government is really fairly treat every kind of energy industry, even not equally weighed, because you cannot just say, they put all the resources on onshore wind. Yeah, because we all know the target cannot be that big. So that's why they decide to have more resources on onshore wind and PV. I think that's fair. Yeah, but they have to be fairly treated on individual basis. Yeah. So different kind of renewable energy can be realized, and I want to echo what the Bart say, because only the local government knows better about their territory, their area. So the different kind have to be developed in consideration of like a geographical terrain or local acceptance. Yeah, so that would be very helpful for the developers to choose the right site. Yeah, to start. Yeah, so and we have to understand. Accept the fact that there's always pros and cons. There's no pure, the perfect solutions available for one kind of energy, not even renewable energy, but any kind of energy. Yeah, so I think instead of just prohibitions or restriction, we have to talk more about how to have a better guidance, for the developers to and for the market to grow in a healthy way. And I think as a kind of a summary, what we talk about, we still can, from my point of view, still have some downwinds, coming years, unfortunately. But I think we need a kind of adjustment. Yeah. So for the PV, I think we do understand fast execution of large-scale PV projects is no longer possible, due to the recent change of environmental law. But I think the benefits are also prominent because it will deter some speculators from investing. I think that's also a good side of that. We cannot deny that. And therefore hopefully attract more creditworthy developers into the market.
Responsible developers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we are also a responsible person. But on the other hand, the drawbacks are also quite obvious. So the overall development cycle will be lengthier, and the capacity is what we believe will be short of the target. That's also a fact. And it comes back to onshore wind. I think different to PV, we are very used to have EIA. Even in early days, I know they are. I really do account, like 50% of the project is kind of EIA waived project, but the other half already goes through EIA. So we didn't intentionally choose to not do EIA. It just depending on the site. If we had to do it, they just do it, right? So I think we're kind of used to that. It's very common for us. So I think the point here is to, for the government to unbiasedly assess individual cases. So we can see the badly planned sites can be avoided, while properly selected sites can be realized. So if having that in mind, they can have a more appropriate assessment, and a more neutral look on the different cases. And for offshore wind, of course, offshore wind forms the biggest portion of renewable energy, thanks to the vast ocean area. But I think the prospect is indeed shadowed by skyrocketing costs, and also uncertainty of the green energy price, or desirable, affordable price, and also swing policy. So it definitely requires government's attention to regain the momentum, of the development. So I think the rollout timing of, let's say, phase 3.3, and also floating demonstration will be the key follow-up. Hopefully in the coming month, not in years. Because even this year, we still didn't see the announcement of feed-in tariff for floating. So it seems like it's not there. So that's a kind of a sign. But hopefully they just think, because the development is not there. So as long as they announce the demonstration regime, then maybe the next year they will start to think about how to do the tariff.
If they would have introduced the floating wind tariff, just any number, they would have started a conversation. They would have shown from their side that they're interested. They would have said, at this price, I'm going to marry you. And then the other party could have still said, no. 10% more, 20% more, this and this mechanism. But in this way, you're still in this, everybody's finding each other, talking to each other, kind of, I mean, politicians also want to be re-elected, so let's not do anything that, but it's not, it's visionless.
Yeah,
right?
I think sometimes it's good to have a debate or negotiation. At least we have dialogue started. But now it's kind of silence.
Waiting mode.
Yeah, waiting mode.
Okay.
Cool. So,
But just to come back to be more on the LCI side of things for next year. So you said like there's so many things to choose because they're all so important, right?
Because I think the biggest risk is that we want to do so many things that that we cannot keep up. But actually, we have some focus areas. One of them is that we want to do something around RE100 plus, I call it. So it's RE100, EV100, and EP100. I think so. As besides green energy, electrical vehicles are very interesting because just by replacing an internal combustion engine with an electric vehicle, we save already 70% or so of the emissions. So that transfer is good. And then energy efficiency, EP100 is a very interesting topic as well. That's of course the cheapest renewable energy that you have if you don't use it. So this is a theme that we'll be looking for the appropriate activities to work on. Could be a publication, could be some forums, could be a roundtable, could be a podcast. We are still working on that. We're also, Annie introduced these 4 categories that we're working in. So circular economy, eco-living, and the enablers, plus green energy. We want to do more activities around these other. We have been focused quite a lot on green energy. It makes sense because this was really something that we had to push forward in the past couple of years. But I think circular economy, waste management, issues regarding to packaging are really important as well. We're thinking of doing something around green healthcare, which could also relate to sustainable hospitals and sustainable packaging for medical products. I think this is something that's also new. And so that's reminding me of something else again, because one of the things that I also realized when I started at the Low Carbon Initiative a couple of months ago is, we have all these forums and we have all these activities and you go to them and if you've seen one, you have the feeling you kind of saw them other. So all of them. I feel like kind of a green fatigue with people. That's, it's again about this and this. So I'm also trying to find fresh topics that are still related, because if we talk about plastics, we actually also talk about emissions. So they're still related, but we have from my perception, we do not have a lot of events around them. So it's, first of all, I think it's necessary to also talk about these topics. And I think it also addresses the interest of some of the members that we have, because we have members from all industries. And I think to be very all of our members are very, I would say, eager and willing to contribute to the goal that the Low Carbon Initiative has. So these are, some of the things that we're thinking about. One more thing, we're also, and especially Annie and Helen are very strong at it, they want to organize activities that actually have an impact. You know, you have a forum and then we all go away and okay, we exchange some name cards, but they're really thinking through what kind of activity can we do where we bring all the people together that are actually involved in that particular topic. So one of the things they're working on is called, we call it the ribbon effect. It's going to be a gathering of important stakeholders around a certain topic. So we'll have different topics. The first one will be around green energy. So the issue to address will be that imbalance between the production of green energy and the demand. And our objective is to get everybody who knows or is involved in this topic in the same room. So, and in this way, try to get the impact that we needed to have.
No, I like that you talk about enablers in your force. That's really
right,
because that seems to be the challenge, that everybody wants to go to that sustainable world and change things, but it's not happening. So where are the enablers to do so? And you have a great team. And I think like being just very trying to be pragmatic, bringing the right people together so that they feel this is valuable and it's not just like an afternoon with 100 other people.
Yes.
So I'm very excited to see how this will further grow.
Me too. Yes.
And I think it will. And especially like also we at TRENA, we also collaborate more now with other associations. And we also believe it will be very important to really get in green energy, the off-takers and the suppliers into the same room, because it's this weird problem of huge demand, depressed supply that already makes it more expensive. So how do you get them together to say, okay, we have this demand, until then you could come up, and if the government supports permitting, then the prices will go down at this point, right? You could have a good discussion about this. So
yes, that's
and I know on the other side there are also some very open-minded people that want to, because everybody's sitting there and saying like, what's going on? So that must be fixable, right? So yes.
So
yes, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It was a really
good,
really insightful talk. And I hope all our wishes for next year come true.
Yes, it's a whole list.
It's a long list. Santa is gonna probably go like, okay, now you have to sacrifice this point, but let's talk about onshore wind. So no, really great having you. And
maybe we continue to the third part.
And then we will continue to the third part.
Okay, thank you, Bart, and thank you, Wei Wei, for the insightful talk. And we have one more announcement to make. This is the, in our renewable energy sector, collaboration is very, very vital. So we're excited that TRENA Talks and ECCT LCI are kicking off a brand new joint series next year. And this series is to give our listeners a real insider views into the amazing work that LCI members are doing, and to highlight the best EU-Taiwan collaboration opportunities across renewable and sustainability sectors that Bart just mentioned. So Annie and Ro, can you tell us a bit more about this new series?
So I think for LCI, this podcast kind of feels like a natural extension of what we have been doing. It's a space or platform where expertise meets policy and where cross-industry insights become something the whole ecosystem can learn from. So I can say it on behalf of Bart and me that we're genuinely excited to partner with TRENA on a joint podcast series. So basically the idea is to bring in industry leaders from LCI and opinion shapers every 2 months or so, I think at least, and keep the conversations approachable, interesting, and grounded in what's actually happening here in Taiwan. So that could mean collaborations, new innovations, or first-hand stories that don't always make it into media or reports, but really show how this transition is unfolding.
Yeah, we're very excited, and I would like to thank Bart for contacting me with this great idea. Said like, shouldn't we do something together? As we've both always been very active, and we have this wonderful TRENA Talks podcast series, which will also do their own thing in renewable energy. But it's really great to see, and then to work together on perhaps. Still, we will have more an energy focus on that one, but one that goes into sustainability and overall thinking. And I know there's a lot of thought leaders on the LCI side as well. And actually, when we had the pre-talks, Annie was also very much for it and ready to go. And you can, she is also probably a very talented podcast host. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun in 26, and let's try. Yes, Bart also immediately came up with a list. So I think we have some good things ready. And I would also like to thank my TRENA Talks team, because today it's the 6th episode, right? But it's the first time we're recording video. So we are also improving and getting better at the whole thing. So we're very much looking forward to this and starting off next year, which sounds far away, which is like another 3 weeks. And then will be working on it. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'm also very looking forward to working with Raul. Not only that you're one of the start of LCI and also in this industry. And I think it's also a great opportunity to spotlight LCI members who are from like every sector of the industry, and also highlight the Europe-Taiwan collaboration that drives so much of the sustainability progress happening right now. Like you said, we already have interest from companies across renewables, finance, and technology. And we're working to make sure the lineup reflects the diversity of the transition. So stay tuned on our media channels on both ECCT and TRENA.
Cool. Okay, time really flew by. A huge thank you to Annie, to Wei Wei and Bart for bringing such insightful perspectives today. We cover so much from the LCI fantastic 2025 achievements to a deep dive into the real one step forward, two steps back 2025, and also the policy shifts in this Taiwan's wind and solar energy journey. But the most exciting part is TRENA Talks and the ECCT LCI are officially kicking off a brand new series next year. We can't wait for more stories. Once again, thank you to all our guests, and thank you to everyone listening. We wish you all a healthy, successful, and a green-powered 2026. We will catch you next time.
Yeah, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.